What's up, nerds and geeks everywhere?
What's going on?
Welcome to another episode of the Galaxy of Geeks podcast and live stream. We had a vacation week in between there, as Victor and I were both away, having some nice family time with our respective families. So, but we are back, and there's a lot of ground to cover, a lot of topics to talk about. We are joined here by our good friend, Mr. Christian Marszwinski. How are you, sir? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing wonderful. Back. It's good to be here, cousin.
Yes.
Good to be here.
Yeah, it's nice that we're all three of us together, because you so graciously filled in for a few weeks while I was not able to jump on the stream, and you co-hosted so amazingly with my amazing co-host here, Mr. Victor Ruiz, and I appreciate it. So we were like, well, since we're back from vacation,
it was fun.
Yeah, and now since we're back from vacation, well, why not bring the trifecta together? And because there's so much to talk about. I mean, there's so much has happened between.
Exactly, and I'm currently on vacation, and I couldn't turn down the offer to talk about the last couple of weeks of nerd stuff. It's been wild.
There's a lot of stuff going on. For sure. So, yeah, I want to welcome everybody right now. If you're watching us live, welcome to the show. We go live every Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and do the live stream. If you're watching us here on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, please feel free to hit that subscribe button there on the YouTube, so that way you get notified every single time we go live or drop a new video there. Of course, for those of you that are watching the replay, thank you and welcome. And for those of you that are listening to the audio version of this, also, please feel free to hit that subscribe button on the audio platform of your choice where you're listening to this dynamic audio program, so that way you get notified every single time we upload a new audio version of the podcast, so you can stay up to date on everything that's going on in the world of geekdom. And with that being said, welcome to the show, everybody. Oh, and by the way, if you want to support the show, we do have a lot of freaking bills to pay around here. So, every little tiny bit helps. Every little bit helps. So a great way to support the show is to go to buymeacoffee.com/GalaxyGeeks. You can see the link in our show notes, and here, if you're watching live, it's in the post section. Very easy. Buy us a coffee. Goes a long way. You can also support us too by heading over to the Galaxy Geeks merch store. We have some very cool Galaxy Geeks swag. Mr. Victor Ruiz is sporting a fine piece of GOG swag merch right there. Nice cool tank for the summertime.
Yeah, I gotta get myself some t-shirts from there. I gotta get some.
Yeah,
stuff.
Man, we gotta get you stocked up. We're gonna be adding some more stuff in there soon too. We're working on some pint glasses and some other stuff. I think there's a hat in the works, so we're gonna be getting some more stuff in there very soon. And so go over there. Of course, head over to galaxygeeks.net for all your fun stuff. There's links everywhere. Click them all. Takes you to all the places. Enough chitter chatter. Let's dive into it, fellas.
No campsite?
No campsite. Oh, I was going to say click the link. Campsite.bio/GalaxyGeeks.
By the way, that's a / not a //
/GalaxyGeeks. Let's get into it.
Back is the list.
Boom.
What happened?
Yeah. All right, here we go. Let's go.
You want a boom?
Give me the boom. Yeah, I don't have a boom on mine. I just have the horn and claps and it's been an explosive last 2 weeks. Let's get into it. Loki. I know every single YouTuber and podcast in the world has broken the season finale down every which way from Sunday, but the Galaxy Geeks hasn't done it yet. So we are leaving our mark here tonight, lest us be left out of the scrutiny of the Loki season finale and series as a whole. So let's go through
No,
it,
not
man.
series as a whole, because we have a season 2.
Oh, that's right. Yes, it's not a series whole. It's just a season as a whole. Thank you. Thank you for the
the first show on Disney Plus to actually be confirmed for a season 2. And sorry to cut in, but it's interesting that how we've talked about what it would be like for them to have some of these actors come back. Obviously Tom Hiddleston is someone who is busy. And it's one of the things that me and you had talked about, Chris.
Yeah.
How he's actually working on a lot of other projects.
And the first show on Disney Plus were YouTube leakers.
Oh, Chris, your connection all of a sudden just decided to stop working in mid thought there. We lost him. Well, we'll get him back on here. He'll be back. Yeah. But yes, you're making a good point there. We have talked about that on the show quite a bit.
Yeah. So it's interesting that we kind of alluded to that to say, well, this guy, it's not a Robert Downey Jr., it's not a Chris Evans, but much like Benedict Cumberbatch, Cumberbun. How they've always worked in series and film, and they've done a lot of limited things over the years with the BBC and ITV over in England. So it's kind of a different mentality, perhaps, and that's why maybe he was like, yeah, sure, why not? I can do it. It's not one of those things where, we have an American actor who thinks it's going to affect their pay rate or whatever for film. It's just different. But there's a few things that I wrote down today because I watched a few different of the breakdowns that you had mentioned, and I kind of put together some questions that came up that I wanted to discuss because I think that they're interesting points with regards to where the series left us and where it could go, not only Loki, but where the MCU could go. The interesting thing, and this is something that I know we're going to talk about, but I don't think we've seen Kang yet.
So that's an interesting thing.
And I'm back. Sorry about that. Yeah, it was glitching out for me. I couldn't even see anything.
That's all right. That's all right. You're back. That's the important thing. Yeah. We were just saying, Victor had just brought up a great point. We were just about to dive into this. Victor was saying he doesn't think that we've actually seen Kang yet.
I agree. No, I don't think we have either because I think what we saw was a Mortis, if anything, was that if that variant of Kang was a Mortis because he never said the word Kang. He said I'm known as this and the Conqueror.
Yeah.
So it's obviously he's going to show up, but I think it's just a testament to Jonathan Major's acting skills and the idea that they're really going to let him go nuts because if he's playing an infinite amount of the same person and he's as good as he is, because when you watch Lovecraft Country, him as Tick compared to He Who Remains is like such a different spectrum of acting. And to see him do that as many times as he's going to do that in the future, that guy, like, God bless him. He's the best, and I'm really excited for it.
He improvised a lot of what we saw during this last episode from what's come out. And
really.
Yeah. And they've talked about how he's actually a professionally trained clown. And that when he was reading the script for this episode, he said, there's so many like improv things that he's learned from feeding off of live crowds and being able to kind of send that back into the part where he was like, I can take, my training, people will kind of scoff and say, well, a clown, what does that have to do? And he would say, no, when you're a clown, you're improving. You're reacting off of people's emotions and reactions. So apparently, they saw where he was going and they just let him go. Like they more or less, he hit the bullet points that they wanted. And the rest was just him like doing his thing. So,
well, did you see that the recent thing they're talking about is someone synced the finale of WandaVision.
Okay, that's something I was going to bring up.
Yeah, good
Loki.
point. Yeah,
like kind of like the Dark Side of the Rainbow with the Wizard of Oz and Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
And yeah, the exact like to the second where Wanda becomes a Scarlet Witch, that's when Kang says, "We just crossed the threshold."
We just crossed the threshold. Yes,
and I don't know if they did that on purpose.
The exact time Wanda becomes a Scarlet Witch, and it is the Nexus event, which supposedly expands the universe.
The one, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Yeah. Pretty cool. I mean, if they did that on purpose, if people aren't just looking into it like too much, if that was on purpose, that's great.
But
the thing is, I was just gonna say, I wouldn't put anything past these guys. This team, because I mean, this is planned, as we all know. You know, I mean, and this stuff has been gestating, and on top of that, having been delays and things that happened because of COVID, I think it gave them the time to. Not whether or not that was a plan from day one, or it was something they decided to do, somehow make it work that way, or it could be a happy accident. Although I don't think anything happens in the MCU by accident.
And then Jonathan Majors, so smart when they said, "Does Kang the Conqueror show up in Loki?" He goes, "I don't know what you're talking about. Absolutely not." And nobody, I didn't see a single YouTube page even bring up the fact that, maybe he said Kang doesn't show up, but a variant of Kang shows up. That's why he was able to just say no and deny it. But no one picked up on the fact that he could show up as a different version.
Right.
And that's smart. Just like Paul Bettany saying like, an actor that I always wanted to work with being himself.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the funniest shit in the world.
Yeah.
It is so funny.
This all had to be planned out, though. I mean, this is why it annoyed me when so many people were saying, "Oh, Wanda sucks." This has nothing to do with Endgame. Yeah, no shit, it doesn't. This is one of these things that way back in episode 1 of this podcast, we talked about how different it was. And I remember Caesar brought this up. You can't tell a story on film the same way that you can tell it in a comic book, in a book, or on TV, because they're completely different formats, and you need to deliver the punchline, quote unquote, in a different fashion. In a movie, you've got a 2-hour window. We've got to make it all work in that time. So you've got all the action, you've got all that stuff. Wanda was definitely a slow build, but a slow build to the point that Scarlet Witch. Now, are there ramifications? Will there be in Doctor Strange? Will there be in Spider-Man? Will there be in the Eternals? This is all a link, and similar to the comics. Again, we've talked about this a bunch of times. Secret Wars, whenever you got a big event, limited series, you always had all these other little comics that came out from Avengers or from X-Men or Spider-Man that fed into that same story. So you actually had to pay attention to not only the 8 comics that were part of that limited series, but sometimes it was 20 some odd comics because you had to build that story up around it. So this is kind of the same thing where series after series, and they're already saying, "What if" is a result of the multiverse.
Loki, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to bring up is the and I think out of all the Marvel series, the MCU series that we've seen, WandaVision, Captain America, Winter Soldier, Loki, I think this one had what I want to call is the biggest exposition dump of all of them in this episode. But the thing is, it's like, and sometimes you get that exhibition, and you're like, oh my god, like here we go. But it's like, you're talking about the improvisation, Victor, but it was like, it was so crucial to me to have all that information like done in such a great way too.
Yeah,
the way he did it, the way he delivered it, and then also the use of like some of the camera moves they did to like create this effect. It was really like I don't know. It was like this great monologue, almost like a whole entire acting clinic put on by him.
It's something that I don't know who else could pull off.
Right. Like I'm like, what other actor right now? Like it just now I'm like, I can't think of anybody else who could have done it like he did. And and then when you have him in that room and he's with the 2 actors, Tom Hiddleston and
what's going on.
and the actor that's playing I forgot her name, her real name, not Lady Loki, but
Sophia Di Martino.
Right. What great act, both awesome actors. It's like you just have this room full of three amazing actors like putting on an absolute clinic, and then Immortus Kang basically just drops this awesome exposition dump, which sets up basically the entire future of the MCU of what we're going to be getting. And I have watched that now several times because I'm like, I miss stuff. Like you're so like hanging on every single word he's saying in that part of the show.
So
this is awesome. I loved it.
Miss Minutes appearance, did you guys jump 40 feet in the air?
Like I did when totally
she showed up. Hey y'all!
Such a scare jump. It was great. Hey y'all! It's like Miss Minutes became the most terrifying thing in this entire episode.
It's cool because they kind of rounded out that reveal and tethered to every single theory basically. So at first it's Miss Minutes, and you're like, oh, Miss Minutes is the big bad, and then she says, oh, He Who Remains. And it's like, oh, it's He Who Remains from the comics, their actual leader, the TVA. And then you see Jonathan Major just like, wait a minute, isn't he Kang? It's like, so that's every single theory. They just with like 3 in a row. It's just like this one now, that one, this. It was great.
So, and I said this on the last show before we broke before we had our vacation break. But I think I told Victor, I go, I want it to be Jonathan Majors, but I was so convinced that they were just going to pull a Richard Boner on us, and it would be like it's another Loki variant. Like this is why I was going. It's got to be another Loki variant, or we had even talked about it being a Mobius, another Mobius variant. Like, oh, there's 2 Mobiuses, and that was the other one that was bringing in artifacts and leaving the rings and stuff like that, and that was what we were going with. Like, it's got to be that. It's not going to be Jonathan Majors, and then boom, the elevator door opens, and I was like, okay, here we go.
Well, Pietro is now a variant, so.
Yes, Pietro is a variant.
You could technically say that all of the shows, anything, the Netflix shows, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the ABC shows, are all technically canon now.
It's actually brilliant when you think about it from a rating standpoint now, how we've been saying, the question we've been asking for the longest time, how do they bring it together? How do they bring it together? Is it stuff ignored? Is it, how do they break, what are they going to do? And here it is, variants. They're variant timelines.
Yeah.
And now we actually have like real splintered timelines for real.
The first thing I said when I saw it, after the show was just like, well, I guess we're definitely getting Toby and Andrew then.
Yeah.
Because now we have a reason to do it. And
you have a reason for all
a little cameo for them. They now have it explained perfect to bring it all together.
Yeah, all you have to say is multiverse.
Yeah.
They're also bringing up the fact that Kang also opens the door for Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four, because Kang is a relative.
Yeah, Nathaniel Richards. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So they're already saying, does this mean that Reed Richards is going to be cast as a black man? Because obviously, Jonathan Majors is black as well. So,
but the other aspect of that is, I guess, technically speaking, we're all descended from black men. So, who knows what could happen on the timeline. But the most interesting thing is the Iron Lad variation of Kang, because Iron Lad in the Young Avengers is a variant of Kang, and he has a relationship with Cassie Lang, Scott Lang's daughter. Mm-hmm. And with Jonathan Majors confirmed as Kang in Ant-Man 3, are we going to have a young variant of him as, because that would be great to see Paul Rudd as like the father protecting his daughter from her new boyfriend, only to find out that he's a variant of Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah.
And then he becomes Iron Lad. And they're setting up the Young Avengers. We'll keep Bishop, all that.
Yeah.
All that stuff. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So that would be pretty great to see.
Now I got a question, and so in the very beginning of this episode, if everybody remembers, we had our kind of a contact moment with everything pulling back into space, and we see a ship
Yeah.
There's already been a billion theories thrown around as to whose ship that could be. And it's already been said, is this the Fantastic Four ship? Is it Guardians? You know, is it? I don't think I phased that. It doesn't look like the Benatar.
I'd go Fantastic Four if it's. I mean, they're either gonna never bring it up again, or it's gonna be like something like the Fantastic Four because of their connection to Kang and all that stuff.
They put it there for a reason.
Yeah. You never know.
How about another theory? I don't know if you've seen this. What's Scott Summers' father?
Oh, I don't know.
Scott Summers' father is Corsair, who is a space pirate.
Oh!
What if they played as if the X-Men have been in space this entire time?
Possible, yeah.
Because when one of the times that Professor X disappeared, he was up in space with Corsair and with a bunch of other mutants.
Right.
So,
well, the actor that played the prisoner in Black Widow, that Red Guardian arm wrestled, the really big guy, he came out in an interview and said, like, I'm the first mutant because he's Ursa Major. And, you know, Ursa Major is the guy that turns into the bear. And he was part of the I think the Red Watch, it was called, or something like that. It was a Russian team of, you know, like the Russian Thunderbolts, basically. But yeah, his name, and in the comics, he's a mutant that turns into a bear. And he came out in an interview and said, like, oh, I'm the first mutant in the MCU. Or something like that. But,
well, depends on how you look at it.
Yeah. He's the guy that when he broke his arm and like his arm was that giant man.
Could it be an Eternals ship?
Could be, because we've seen the triangles already. And I mean, imagine that they show the mansion or the castle from the other side in the Eternals movie.
Well, that's what I mean. The Eternals in the trailer, they said we've never intervened until now. So what is the
now?
What's causing it? Does it have something to do with what's going on in Loki and all that stuff?
Right. So here, this is another good question. So I mean, we've been talking about Spider-Man. We've talked about obviously Doctor Strange, but like we do have 2 other movies coming out before both of those films.
Right.
Do any of these tie in at all with Loki, or are they pretty much standalone films? Like, what do we think? Is Shang-Chi like, hey, it's just a standalone film to introduce this character and then get them involved in the next bunch of films? Like, does Shang-Chi show up in Doctor Strange? Like, I don't know.
Yes,
I agree. I think it's like the situation that's going on in Loki with the bridging of the multiverse. I feel like that's like the equivalent of Thanos' cameo in the first Avengers movie.
Okay.
Where it's going to be this like huge deal, but it kind of just looms overhead. So like some movies along the trail are going to link up to it, but some stuff in between is going to be its own thing.
Right.
And not really bring it up. But it's going to be in everyone's head that this is what's going on.
Yeah, the character of Shang-Chi is rumored to take over for Tilda Swanson's character in Doctor Strange. So,
the ancient one?
Yeah, the ancient one. So from the rumors that I've read, Shang-Chi is gonna set up how he plays into the multiverse. It's going to supposedly write the whole Mandarin story as well that people are still going apeshit over from Iron Man 3. And then it's going to send the Shang-Chi character into Doctor Strange. Because, I mean, if we look at it, the way that they're building Doctor Strange is going to be like Captain America Civil War with all of the other characters that we're going to have involved outside of Doctor Strange.
Yeah. And with Sam Raimi and Rick and Morty writers in control of all that, I can't even imagine what that movie's going to be like. I can't even.
A lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, for sure, for sure. It's like all these other films now. Like after this Loki, final episode, the finale, season finale. It's like I can't. It's like instantly. I want all these films to come out now. Like let's go. Like I want to. I don't want to wait.
Yeah,
And so
Bruce Campbell as Mephisto. Let's
Bruce Campbell.
Let's do it.
He would be good. It's almost like you got Shang-Chi coming out, and then you've got the
Eternals.
The Eternals, and it's like if they don't have anything to do with it, it's kind of like I don't care about these. Let's get to the other connecting films.
Well, we're gonna get What If next month, then Shang-Chi, then Eternals, and then Spider-Man. And the original plan was that we were gonna get Hawkeye before the end of the year.
Right.
So
they're still saying that we're supposed to get Miss Marvel and Hawkeye before the end of the year.
Yeah,
they haven't been confirmed, but I still think both those shows are coming out before the end of the year, which is nuts.
Well, if you think about it, well, let's see. What If is August? Shang-Chi is September. Eternals is November.
Yeah, and Spider-Man ends the year around Christmas time. Yeah.
Yeah. So they could plausibly stick one of those in October and then one in between Eternals and Spider-Man.
Especially if there's 6 episode, like short runs, like like Loki. Isn't What If a lot more episodes, or is that I don't know.
Not sure
how many. Yeah,
I am looking it up now.
Yeah. While you look that up, I have a question for you guys.
Yep.
And this kind of leads into the whole Agent Carter rumor with Loki.
What they see are getting brought in the background.
Yeah. Do you guys think that after Endgame, the TVA went in and altered some of the things that the Avengers did?
Possibly. No, I mean it's knowing that Kang, or He Who Remains, the amount of control he had all over, like the fact that he had a literal script in a book printed out of everything that happened. Yeah, you never know. There's so many open-ended questions about what's happening still.
Yeah.
That it's like they explain so much, but still it's like
they still left it open.
There's so much more to it. Yeah.
So there are 10 What If episodes.
10?
Okay, cool.
10. Nice. 10 coming out, and they start Wednesday, August 11th. And last episode is October 13th.
So there you go.
So 10 episodes. So interesting, too. I did just see that, and I don't know if you guys already knew this. I actually didn't even think about it, but it makes sense. Is that they're saying the Eternals takes place after the events of Endgame.
Okay.
Yeah, technically speaking, when you think about it, Spider-Man Far From Home, they say that takes place 6 to 8 months, right, after the snap. So that means Spider-Man 2 takes place well after the events of Loki. So all the shenanigans going on in Loki technically happen. Because if you watch Disney Plus, when you go to the Marvel section, they added like different kind of listings of movies, and there's one that says the Marvel Cinematic Universe in chronological order. Mm-hmm. So they list all the movies in their actual order. So it starts with Captain America 1, then Captain Marvel, then Iron Man, etc. But it says that Loki takes place before WandaVision and before Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But and that would mean it takes place before Spider-Man. So all the shenanigans with the multiverse are in play during Spider-Man 2. So is that going to how's that going to affect it?
Which is interesting because Mephisto says I came from the multiverse.
Yeah, so maybe he was.
Even though it was fake, but now you go, was it fake?
Mysterio, you mean?
That's what I meant. Sorry, Mysterio, sorry.
Yeah. Well, and that explains, we've talked about it before, the whole J. Jonah Jameson appearance where he wasn't in the previous movie, and he also wasn't in the Amazing Spider-Man movies either.
So maybe that's the sign of, I don't know, maybe that's the first of the multiverse just melding in. I don't know.
Yeah, because I would assume that the Spider-Man 3 is going to start right where that end credit scene stopped from the second one.
Right.
Like they're going to go right into it. I don't think it's going to be like months later or something, but they have to go right into it. And
well, I mean, I don't know. I've thought about that a few different ways. Well, one way that I've thought of it is what you just explained. Another thing is Peter Parker on his couch in a pair of sweats, like on the DL, wanting no one to bug him.
In a safe house.
Right. And then the third option is the movie kicks off with Matt Murdock by his side. And
That would be awesome.
There were a few leaks that came out today that I saw that were, it's the usual suspects on YouTube that are like, it's either completely bullshit or or sometimes they're spot on. But there's a lot of Charlie Cox Spider-Man rumors coming out now.
Well,
I mean, I think it makes complete sense, especially now that we've got the what just happened in Loki.
Right.
It makes 100% sense why Matt Murdock would be there. But even without it,
for She-Hulk as well. Like it
yeah.
I mean, it's a procedural like lawyer show, so of course Matt Murdock would fit in. And also the She-Hulk show is being the head writer and showrunner on that is the girl that wrote the Pickle Rick episode of Rick and Morty. So She-Hulk is another Rick and Morty Marvel crossover. So that's going to be great because that's one of the best episodes of that show.
Remember when the Simpsons were hot in those first few seasons, and then all of a sudden every Simpsons writer got like pilfered and like to say the same thing's happening with Rick and Morty. Oh, you wrote a Rick and Morty episode? We're hiring you to really do our whole series.
Here's another thing: She-Hulk was once put on trial by the TVA.
Oh, really?
So there are already rumors that the gateway to the She-Hulk series will be via Loki season 2.
Yeah, I can't wait for that one. I mean, I love that actress Tatiana Maslany.
Oh, she's great.
I loved her since she was in the sequel of Ginger Snaps. When she was like a kid, and then Orphan Black. Her show is incredible. I mean, she's amazing in that. So I'm really stoked that they chose her. And then that's another example of she said, "I don't know what you're talking about." When they asked her about She-Hulk, like, "Oh, I heard you're up for She-Hulk." She goes, "No, they never called me." And then 2 weeks later, I'm She-Hulk.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the game. I mean,
you can't believe anyone anymore.
Nothing's official until it's official.
Yeah. All right, so here's a question for you guys: the absolute ending when we see the Jonathan Majors statue, for lack of a better term, because that could be Kang, or that could be a tribute to He Who Remains, or it can be any variant, really, but we know the interaction between Loki and Mobius and I forget her number now. B-15. Is Loki in a different dimension?
If the TVA exists outside of the timeline, that's my question. Is like, how is the TVA changed?
Okay,
but it exists outside.
Unless the TVA was never outside the timeline.
Let me give you a few options here. Is it a different TVA? Is it that Kang came back and conquered everything, and that's why everything has changed and nobody remembers Loki and thus the statue? Or is this a different part of the TVA? The TVA is just immense, and that's the other Mobius that there was speculation that he existed, and the other part of the TVA that he's been sent to, instead of having the regular, the regular Watchers, it has a statue of He Who Remains, because they already know that he's going to get killed.
I mean, listen, in the comics, there were multiple versions of Mobius.
Right.
Yeah, I think the entire TVA was a Mobius variant.
Right.
Like everyone
that's
that works
what I was going to
TVA.
say. Yeah.
Which, I mean, apart from the jet ski and not getting Mobius on a jet ski, I will say I was excited when I first heard about Owen Wilson playing Mobius, because I thought, oh my God, are we going to actually get like 100, like an infinite
Wilson's.
amount of Owen Wilsons running the TVA? That would have been so good.
Yeah.
Well, if you follow Galaxy of Geeks on, or did I post it to Instagram? Well, one of the places, it may have been TikTok or it may have been YouTube. The like sort of ad that I put together for tonight's episode actually had Mobius on an animated Mobius on a jet ski. So
yeah, I mean it's actually a really great point that you're bringing up here, though, because I did think about that. Like, is this the same timeline or is this a different timeline now? Because that version of Kang have his own. So let's just say it's Kang the Conqueror, and this is his TVA that he created.
right.
Because if they're all thinking along the same lines and they all do the same things, then or close to the same things, then he has his version of the TVA that's taking care of stuff. And then, so is there just infinite numbers of TVAs that each
and did
version of Kang has?
Did Kang in some way in this timeline like prune all the Loki, like all of the Loki variants to the point where Mobius doesn't know who Loki is? Because it seems like Mobius's entire career was chasing Lokis, and the fact that he doesn't know who Loki is, like, what is that universe one where Kang might have actually erased all proofs of Loki? Yeah,
or that being another Mobius who just wasn't, just centered on Loki. Maybe his target was someone completely different.
What's interesting though is that when we run into, and I got to rewatch it because when Loki runs into him, they're in a crisis event, like they're in the whole like, I forgot what Mobius says, but they're like he wants us to do them all or go after them all or something, whatever he says.
They're seeing the timeline freaking out. They're seeing it just branching off at the same time. So
they're just seeing what just happened.
Right. So it's again being that if the whole Scarlet Witch lineup is correct and there's a huge Nexus event that takes place, and also He Who Remains dies at the same time, those two events maybe have sent them into a panic.
Yeah. Very well. I mean, it's so weird because they actually do. I mean, they really do sync up.
Yeah, but like you guys have already said, they answer so many things, yet leave us with so many questions more. This is a Mighty Mighty Boss Tones album.
Yeah.
The title, if I remember correctly, is Answer the Questions, or no, Question the Answer.
Yeah, Question the Answers.
Question the Answers. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it definitely leaves us with more. I mean, obviously, I love the way they set this up, and what we were talking about at the top of the show was like this just now explains everything that they could do moving forward. It gives them the writing ability to say multiverse. It ties in all the Netflix series because multiverse, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., multiverse, like
X-Men, the original, the Fantastic Four movies, probably Blade.
Yep.
Hopefully the Dolph Lundgren Punisher.
The Dolph Lundgren Punisher.
Well, here's something really quick. I mean, we're not going to do quick hits this week, but real quickly. The rumor is that Vincent D'Onofrio is being signed up to a deal with both Marvel and Sony to play the Kingpin in in the next few Spider-Man related movies, and that includes Venom, that includes Spider-Man, that includes anything else that's like part of the Spider-Verse, and possibly even Daredevil.
Out of the entire spectrum for me of superhero movies and like accurate villain portrayals, I will say Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman and Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin were the two just perfect. Like you can't, you'll never, ever touch those guys.
Right.
And like him as Kingpin. Like I remember when I first started Daredevil, I was like, oh, this is a perfect casting. And then it was that scene where he just like chops that guy's head off by beating him with a car door. I was just like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. And he is Kingpin. And by the end of season 3, I mean that fight with Bullseye, Daredevil, and Kingpin in his oh my god, that's great. He's wearing the suit and everything. He looks perfect. So I wish that he comes in that Spider-Man.
Here's a problem that they have, though, but it can be solved with variants. They've already rumored a Chris Evans as Johnny Storm, but what about Mashallah Ali as both Blade and he was Cottonmouth in season 1 of Luke Cage?
Yeah,
variant.
Variant.
They just tapped the director for Blade as well. They just announced that they found the director for Blade, and I just hope we get Wesley Snipes coming in as Dracula. That'd be great.
That would be really great. And I love that in the episode of it was an episode 5 of Loki or 4 where Morbius drops the fighting vampires live.
Well, then you can
and then Thor Ragnarok as well. Ragnarok did the vampires thing.
Yeah, yeah, they did.
It's a stick with 3 forks. It's not really useful unless you're fighting 3 vampires that are huddled together.
Hey, man.
All right, so where do we rank Loki in the 3? Because that's all we have right now. We're just going to focus on not the Netflix stuff, but let's just focus on the 3 MCU series that have been released already. Where does Loki rank? Where's the ranking now with the 3?
Number 1 for me. I think, yeah.
Can you rank your kids, Chris?
No comment.
Here's my problem is that each series has touched off a specific set of emotions and ticked off a specific set of boxes to where it's difficult for me to say at the moment, I love this more than that. You know, I really loved Falcon and Winter Soldier. And when we came out of that, I said, this is the closest to the MCU movies that we've had. So I really loved it because of that. But Loki is just so far out there and so different. It ticked off so many things where, to me, you could tell the Rick and Morty influence. Like I was waiting for not the TVA, but their like equivalent of the TVA that always shows up every once in a while.
The Council of Ricks.
No, not the Council of Ricks. The 2 guys that are there to almost to prune Rick.
Yeah.
Deal actually.
It was the episode where in the garage where they split all the timelines and they're like the weird like worm looking guys that came in. They're like
they're like we're the timekeepers and
yeah. They show up in like 2 or 3 different episodes. So it's almost like while I'm watching Loki, I'm like, it isn't out of the realm of possibility that we could actually see these guys show up just because of how out there a lot of.
I'd love to see a background shot of the TVA bringing in like a live action Rick and Morty, because that just like far in the background, like just
that'd be
real
funny.
Subtle kind of thing. Because I mean, if George Lucas could put E.T. into the Senate in Revenge of the Sith, then why not have a little throwback like that? You could do whatever. Disney owns everything in the world, so they could do anything.
I agree.
I think for me, see, it's so because it's weird because it's so fresh, so it's so hot in my mind. Like, I think if I was to rank him, I would probably put Loki up there because I like I don't know. I really liked the ensemble cast on this. I felt like the
score or the music was.
I felt like the acting, like all the episodes, all the series have had outstanding acting, and I think everybody really brought it. But I felt like this one, I really, really liked Tom Hiddleston, and I thought the chemistry between Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson was just so great. Like way better than I thought it was going to be. I really didn't expect them to really have like this whole like the chemistry they had together, and I really
Mobius is a national treasure. Like everyone in the world, like it's one of those things those rare things in fandom that everyone agrees with is everyone loves Owen Wilson.
Yeah,
I've never seen a single negative comment about him.
I mean, he does his thing. He's Owen Wilson in every movie, everything. And so I think for me, I would rank this. I put it up as my number one because I think the acting on this one is probably the best out of the three. I think some of the more cinematic production value action stuff would go to Captain America and Winter Soldier, because it had more of the big box office feel to it. Like you and I said, the first episode of that was like, holy crap, this is like I could watch this whole thing in a theater. Like this is crazy. Like it felt so big.
Fight on top of the semi trucks.
Oh,
and the last episode too was just it was the coolest Falcon moments in the entire MCU. It was just great. Like he was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I loved all that. I thought it was. I mean, they really did a good job with that, and I really like that. And I think they went to places in that where we talked about it. You know, even the level of violence and showed blood. Like that was like, you know, it was like it was back to back with that and some of the stuff that was going on with Star Wars. You know, bad. It's like, you know, there's been a certain level of things I've been a little like, whoa, okay, Disney's going there. It's crazy. So
alligator Loki biting off President Loki's hand and like blood spraying everywhere from it.
Like there's like Monty Python kind of moments, you know, like that's all I was thinking about was the killer rabbit. Like
It was a fun little Peter Pan reference to the alligator biting off Captain Hook's hand. And, but then Black Widow too, like him breaking that dude's arm. It's like that was probably the most brutal thing that happened out of any of the MCU movies ever until that point. Like you never see anything like where he picks up his arm that's just like all jelly. It's just like you never see violence like that. I was like, oh man, Disney's really kind of phoning it in.
Yeah, stepping it up. They're stepping it up for sure. So I put this. I think I would rank Loki as my 1, and I would probably put Falcon and Winter Soldier as 2 and WandaVision as 3. That doesn't mean that I don't like. I mean, I like them all. I really do. So I agree with you, Victor. It is hard because each show had its own tone, and it had its own piece in the story, because they all did. You know, they all do interlock with one another and have set different things up in motion. So it's hard. It's hard, but I think, you know,
I think I agree like wholehearted with your ranking. Yeah.
My whole thing is that Falcon and Winter Soldier went places also on a social level with the whole Isaiah Bradley storyline and all that also kind of surprised me.
Yeah, they got very woke with that episode, with that series.
Yeah, and that was something that really emotionally connected for me on various levels. Just, you know, not only because of the social commentary there, but always, you know, the thinking about the forgotten people that, you know, contributed to something.
Of course.
And that really, you know, that kind of stuff always grabs me. So
the finale where Sam brought Isaiah to the Captain America Museum.
So great.
And showed him that stat. I was just like, it was a mess.
Such a great, like, it's such a perfect ending to that.
It's like, just like, wow,
I love that.
34 years old and I'm crying at 3:30 in the morning.
Well,
for a Captain America show.
Well,
I'm like, this is ridiculous.
I don't know if you posted the meme or not, but there was the one meme where I've had him watch Titanic 20 times and he never cried once, and he's seen 10 seconds of the final episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier and he's bawling.
So funny. So good. Yeah, I mean, so I think I agree. I mean, great, very powerful episode, and it's hard. It's hard to rank them because they've all been good.
And they're all completely different flavors, you know?
Yeah. I still think WandaVision by far was the weirdest of them all in such a great way. I love what they did there. I mean, that to me is also a great production with every episode. I mean, I can't only imagine how hard that must have been to like really plot that out and try to be as authentic as they could.
I think I
back
saw it was
those
confirmed
each of those series.
that Agatha's coming back as well. That she's not done.
Oh, there's no way. She's 100% going to be in Doctor Strange. Like that's 100% a setup.
Wait a second.
Oh, here we go.
Mr. Chris Faglio is predicting that Agatha Harkness will show up in Doctor Strange 2. You're
Loki
batting
was
what?
confirmed for Doctor Strange 2 as well.
Who is?
Loki, the Hollywood Reporter.
That is 100% confirmed.
Yeah.
But we're not sure if it's the past setting up the storyline, if it's actually him, or if it's a variant, is what I
Alligator. It could be Alligator Loki.
I want Loki to show up in Thor 4 so bad. Because if Thor finally actually believes Loki's dead, and then he shows up and it's not just him, there's two of them, and it's him and Sylvie, and Thor's just like, are you kidding me? Like I finally thought you're dead, and now there's more of you. It would just be a great. I think that, and Taika, if anyone in the world could write an awkward dialogue between Thor, Loki, and Sylvie, it would, like, Taika would do it to the best.
I also feel like we have our best chances of Alligator Loki showing up in Thor: Love and Thunder just because it's Taika, and I can just imagine him wanting to have Alligator Loki in there.
It's funny. You invited us to the non-toxic Star Wars group on Facebook. Well, I signed up for the non-toxic Marvel group.
Yeah. It's the same people that run it. Those are the two best groups on Facebook.
Yeah, I got to get the non-toxic Marvel one. The Star Wars one I really like a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you'll appreciate this, Chris. Someone asked about the second Thor movie, and they said, "Well, this is by far my favorite, movie in the MCU," and blah blah blah. Dark World, yeah. And I said, look, a lot of these movies when they came out, I thought were great, but if you compare them now to what we have over all of these years, some don't hold up as well as the others. It's not to say that they're bad movies, but what I said was, I can't compare Dark World to Ragnarok. I go, Ragnarok to me is one of the best MCU movies.
My favorite. It's my number one.
Well, and the thing that I brought up was, I remember Kevin Smith said at the time that Thor in the Avengers, in Joss Whedon's Avengers movies, was a fun character, but that in the Thor movies was boring. And Taika Waititi basically brought that comedy aspect into it. And what I brought up was, by the time we got to Guardians and the Russo brothers had started to, imprint their feel into the Captain America movies as well, Marvel finally found their, where they needed to go. Because I brought up the fact that Dark World was almost like a DC movie. It was too dark. It was too stiff. Whereas, you get to Ragnarok, you get to Guardians, you get to the two Spider-Man movies, you get to the Ant-Man movies, and even Captain
Marvel. It did
Marvel.
have one of my favorite end credit scenes, though, of Dark World, with the giant monster. Like, no one killed it. It's just randomly roaming around Earth, chasing birds on top of a building.
That's true. That was
really funny.
but I mean, outside of that, I think by the time we got to James Gunn and Taika Waititi and the Russos, everything kind of pivoted to make, and even Joss Whedon, even with everything that's gone on, without that first Avengers movie, the MCU wouldn't be where it's at now. I think it was one of the most pivotal movies that they released. It was one of the biggest.
I think it's where they found that Marvel humor, the Marvel humor, the Marvel,
Well, I think it's someone had to have seen the Ghostbusters remake, the female remake, and saw how absolutely hilarious Chris Hemsworth was in that, because he was probably the funniest person in that entire movie, and they're just like. And Taika probably thought, oh man, we could, he's amazingly funny. We could really go for it.
the shorts they made with him and the roommate were like,
oh yeah.
I thought those were. I'm like, those are amazing. Like they are really freaking funny. Like really, I still watch them and I go, I just crack up. I just think they're great. And I agree.
It's gonna be fun, man. I also just found out Guardians is in their pre-production for that, and the Guardians are all in Thor 4 as well. So it's like I don't know how much they're gonna be in it, but I know they're a big part of it. So it's Thor 4 seems like it's gonna be just as huge as like Doctor Strange 2 in terms of like characters, because as I said,
well, at this point, we wouldn't have seen the Guardians since Endgame.
Yeah, Russell Crowe confirmed as Zeus, and then Christian Bale is the main guy for Gore the God Butcher. Like it's gonna be nuts.
Yeah, it's just gonna keep going and going, and I like that it's gonna get weirder and weirder too. Which is great because that's one of the things I always loved about Marvel is how weird it gets and got, with all, especially when they're in space and all the cosmic stuff, and it just is so bizarre, which is what makes it so different from all the DC stuff,
And it's you said it. It's they're different, sarcastic, humorous parts that were kind of missing from those first few movies. I mean, Iron Man had hints of it, but the rest of them, if you look back at the first Captain America movie, was really devoid of a lot of that stuff. And again, you get the Russo brothers in there who understand comedy from Community and from other stuff that they were in, being fans of the subject matter, being able to pepper the stuff in and being able to make it work. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that, we're all in agreement here. We all really dug Loki. We're all excited about what's coming next. We have What If starting up in August. So that'll be the next Marvel series that we've got to talk about and running through to October. So that'll be very cool.
Yeah, then we got Shang-Chi right in the middle of that.
Shang-Chi's coming out. And then obviously we've got the Eternals after that. And then eventually we have Spider-Man. So those are basically the 3 films for this year. And then next year we start kicking off with all the other stuff.
Next year there's not going to be a week off from Marvel content.
No, it's going to be crazy.
Gonna be insane. Yeah.
So let's talk about the other Disney property we have here, because we've talked a lot about Loki. We've covered that. We're still, so as much as Loki has wrapped up, we still have a Star Wars show running on Disney Plus, and we are a little more than halfway through.
Almost done. We're 4 episodes away from being finished.
The season of A Bad Batch. And the last 2 episodes, we had a Bad Batch. I personally really, really enjoyed. Same. Loved the Hera arc. I loved meeting young Hera, and Chopper was so great.
It was so good to see that murderous droid again.
I know.
The droid that has the highest body count in Star Wars history.
So great.
Chopper. I was when I first saw Hera, I was like, oh man, this is gonna be awesome. I'm so stoked for this. And
it was really great.
I had one issue
that Rebels characters are appearing in either Obi-Wan or Andor.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping we get Hera coming back. But yeah, it's good seeing her just like, I'd always loved to fly, and she ends up being like one of the greatest pilots.
I know
in the Rebellion ever.
Love establishing stuff there with her. Yeah.
But Victor, you said in the chat that you had an issue.
Yes.
With that showing up, and I never heard what your issue was.
Yes. Okay. So what was your issue?
Yeah.
All right. So I had to bone up today preparing for this and figuring out the connection, because obviously these are all Filoni connections between Clone Wars and Rebels and Bad Batch. The one thing that annoyed me was Hera's accent.
And it's like a Russian accent almost. Like, yeah, she almost had like, they had like this.
It's closer to a French accent to me, but anyway, yeah, the Russian accent is more of the Black Widow stuff. Anyway, yeah. So I thought, I'm like, why the hell do they have her speaking like this, where she never spoke like that in Rebels? And then they showed in one of the recap videos that I saw today, they actually brought up the part where they actually brought it up. They said, oh, by the way, if you didn't realize that Hera did speak like this during Rebels, she did during one sequence where her father brought up the fact that she should only be fighting for Ryloth instead of the entire rebellion. And that's when she turns the accent on just for like 30 seconds and says, Father, the Empire is on every planet. We have to fight them regardless what planet or what part of space we're in. And when she turns to that, that's when the father kind of realizes that he's wrong and she's right, type of a deal. So, yes, she did do it, but it was so small of a part of Rebels that I had completely forgot. So when she originally spoke like that, I'm like, why are they doing this? She never spoke like this on Rebels, but I was wrong.
Yeah, I didn't know about that what you're just talking about. I just figured it was that she was, she was still speaking in like the native accent for Ryloth because she's never been off-world, and this is the point where she leaves off-world and then probably wherever she goes into hiding or whatever, or tries to then blend in with the rebels. I don't know, just somehow does that.
I left
the
LA
accent or changes it.
I left LA a year ago to go back to New York, and when I just came back, my friends are just like, "You got a New York accent, man." I was like, oh, shit.
Well, here in Spain, you have Antonio Banderas, who depends on who he's speaking to. He either has a regular Castilian accent, or if he's speaking to the press from the south of Spain, which is where he's usually from, he speaks with a southern accent. So it depends on his audience. He tailors his accent to them.
Right. So there you go. It's something that she probably started doing depending on who she's hanging out with, and if she's with a bunch of rebels and all that, and she just begins to, lose the accent.
Christian just forgot to switch that on and off. He forgot to go from the New York to the LA accent.
Yeah.
Is he having audio difficulties again?
Seems like he's having some audio troubles there. Oh. We lost him again. Oh, he'll be back. Yeah. But yeah, listen, these last two arcs are great. They're once again advancing the story. I love that we're now getting closer and closer to resolution with Crosshair of some point. I had a feeling in this episode. I thought we were going to lose somebody. Especially the second part of this when they were storming. I was like, something's going to go wrong here. Crosshair is going to take one of them out or capture one of them, and I felt like something bad was going to happen. Now it didn't, but now that he's got full carte blanche to go after them and hunt them down, he's going to be like a Terminator.
Yeah, it's going to be the arc of the last 4 episodes is going to be. Yeah, because if you also realize or analyze these last 2 episodes, the Bad Batch really were not the focus of the episodes. It was Hera and her family, a little bit of Omega. And then the Bad Batch were kind of bit characters with all of this.
We didn't even first see the Bad Batch until they went to go pick up the weapons on that moon.
Yeah,
that's when they're like, oh, we're meeting the mercenaries or whatever, and that's when we first see them in that very first episode.
Yeah,
I was like almost halfway through.
So it's going to be interesting because do we have a second season?
I'm back. Sorry.
No problem. Do we have a second season of the Bad Batch to resolve, a lot of the pending things, because we still have all the stuff with Kamino. Sid, really, you kind of don't need any resolution with her because kind of the part that needed to be resolved was taken care of.
Yeah, we know that those guys are working with her and all that, and she still may have a part to play before this is over because, we know that they're still being hunted by 2 bounty hunters. One trying to keep Omega safe, and the other one, trying to get her, and we still have Boba Fett out there. I'm just gonna say we still have Boba Fett out there.
Yeah, Sid is kind of like this series' Hondo, if you really think about it.
Yeah, a little bit. And that's the other thing. We still haven't seen Hondo yet, and we still have. I still feel like we're gonna see Hondo before this is over.
Please,
we have to see Hondo. I mean,
the sisters could come back. We could potentially see Ahsoka. We could potentially see Rex again.
Darth Maul.
Darth Maul is the other thing that we're gonna see eventually.
And of course, Vader. He's Vader at that point.
Yeah, it's very possible that we get a Vader. Probably, if we're going to get Vader at all, it's going to be in the last episode, and it may be like a hologram type thing or something like that.
So, do you guys think that Crosshair, his injury where he got all messed up that one episode, it looks like all of his burns are centered right around where the chip usually is in his head?
Yeah.
Do you think he might kind of turncoat and help out our boys? Because I have a feeling that Crosshair might be the one that sacrifices himself.
It could be. It could start to be a malfunction, and maybe he starts to have headaches and things like that, or it's enough that maybe these guys, maybe he goes after him and they capture him and they manage to do the surgery.
Get it out, yeah. And he joins the crew again. That would be great too,
Wasn't Tech still working on that headband thing?
Yeah. Tick.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, and and there's also too, I think, more rebellion stuff here. Do we see, because we're starting to see the seeds of, we're seeing the seeds of like the rebellion started in the main players. Do we see like a Mon Mothma in here at all? Do we see a young a Leia? A Bail Organa.
Well, young Leia was cast for Obi-Wan. I don't know if you saw that. They announced it officially. They cast an actress as a young Leia, and they're thinking that, and Bail Organa and Mon Mothma are confirmed for Obi-Wan. So they're saying that the event that gets Obi-Wan off of Tatooine might be that Leia gets found out or is in danger in some way. And it's going to be a story centered around young Leia, because it's like an 8-year-old, like a young kid got cast as Leia, and that's pretty cool. Sense. If that's a great way to get Obi-Wan, because do you really expect it to be just Obi-Wan on Tatooine for the whole season? Like, he has to get out of there somewhere. Right. Like there has to be more of an adventure, So they're saying that the young Leia is what is a catalyst to Obi-Wan's adventure for the show.
That could be that. I like that a lot, actually, if that's really the case. And that, Bail Organa sends him a message, and I'm sure they go back and forth. Because really, the only people that know he's there is Bail Organa and Yoda,
and that's it.
And that maternity droid, which hopefully they wipe the memory bags of that droid.
R2.
Oh yeah, and R2. R2 knows.
But R2's tight-lipped. He's a good guy.
He's good.
He ain't ratting on no one.
Yep.
But look it up. They have pictures and everything of the casting of young Leia.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll have to look that up. I totally missed that. Cool.
That's a way of introducing Leia without getting, without stirring up a shitstorm as well, like they did with Solo. So
now, do you think I feel like we're done with the Hera storyline?
Yes,
for this, because I know that
felt like a little arc, like how the Clone Wars had 3 episodes arcs and all.
I wasn't sure if we were going to see the death of Hera's mom during this arc, but I guess it looks like we're not, because I know that she gets killed by the Empire.
I think we're going to see Hera in one of the upcoming live action series. Like,
I'm thinking Andor probably.
Yeah,
Andor makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Maybe Ahsoka.
And George Lucas is writing episodes of Endor. He's credited as one of the main writers on that show.
Oh wow!
Like, he finally came out of his little cave.
Well, he was on set a lot for Mandalorian.
Yeah.
They kept inviting him on set, because him and Filoni are still ridiculously tight, and I know that Favreau wanted him there, so he was on set a lot, just hanging out. He kept inviting him on there.
In his New Balances and his high socks. I love that man. I love that man.
He's got a great look. He can do whatever he wants.
He's writing for Andor, and he's
cool.
back on the board. He's back on board in Star Wars land. So
Hey, that's cool. You know, I mean, I think that's great. He can be still part of his creation, even though he sold it.
Well, because it's the whole thing where
but he wants to.
Everyone hated the prequels when they came out, but everyone loves the prequels now. So now, like George and like Ewan McGregor too. Ewan said the same thing. He was just like, he goes out. There's a strange resurgence in the prequel fandom that everyone is defending the prequels now out of nowhere.
I'm not defending the prequels out of nowhere. I'm
not either. But
I like the stuff that's come out. Like I like the prequel supporting material, Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Bad Batch, Rebels. All this stuff is very cool.
One.
Like Rogue One, awesome.
Anytime that I bring up the sequels, it's all prequel people being like they come to the defense and they do not hold up. Blows my mind. Yeah, no, they don't. Revenge of the Sith is great. The third one's awesome, but the
third one is so much better after you watch Clone Wars.
Yeah.
It really is. You actually feel like the downfall of Anakin is so much more powerful after Clone Wars.
Yep. Yeah. It's a lot more tragic. It has like it's awful. And then Clone Wars the final season where you really see that was one of the most that ending of Clone Wars with Vader finding the helmet was just one of the best moments in Star Wars history.
Just gonna say, probably one of the finest moments in Star Wars. It's so visually stunning.
Yeah, and then you see the bird flying overhead as he looks up at it. It's just like, oof. So that's why what are we gonna get? Where's the Ahsoka show gonna go? Are we gonna get that Ahsoka and Vader? Well, at that point, Vader's dead. If Ahsoka takes place after Mando, I don't know.
It really all depends. I mean, if they're really thinking about doing a series with Sebastian Stan as Luke Skywalker to kind of fill in between Jedi and Force Awakens, maybe
I know the answer to that, but I cannot speak of it.
Inside baseball, baby. Inside baseball.
But well, and I guess Vader is done by then. But I mean, you could always have the dreaded flashback sequence between her and Vader meeting up, because we did see them run into one another on Rebels for a split second.
Yeah.
That was one of the best fights in Rebels. Ahsoka versus Vader. That was awesome.
So great.
Yeah. But here's my question to you guys. We just mentioned that next year is going to be one Marvel thing after another. Yeah. We're going to get to the point where Star Wars is going to be the same thing. I mean, we know that Book of Boba Fett is coming out later this year. We know that eventually Mando season 3 will be filmed.
And then Obi-Wan's done filming.
Obi-Wan's done.
And Andor too. I think is done filming.
Oh, Andor's wrapped too. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So again,
and then you also have Rogue Squadron being. I think that's being filmed now, right? Is Rogue Squadron being filmed?
I thought they canceled that show.
No, the movie with Patty Jenkins.
Oh, yeah. I don't know about that. But yeah, wasn't the Rangers of the New Republic?
Rangers of the New Republic was canceled.
The Gina Carano controversy and all that. Yeah.
But so what I'm getting at is, there's always been an animated component to Star Wars. Does that mean we get a second season of Bad Batch? Do they start a new animated series to plug in other gaps? What do you guys think will be happening from the animated side of things?
I mean, I think.
Well, we're getting the Star Wars Visions is coming out this year too.
Yeah, Star Wars Visions,
the anime show, right?
I also heard the Accolade is supposed to be animated.
Oh, really?
That's what I had heard. I don't know if it's true, but if that is, or Acolyte. Sorry, I think I said Acolyte.
Yeah.
Acolyte. But I did. I mean, I think just as far as Bad Batch goes, I don't think we're gonna have an answer to that until we get to the final episode.
Yeah.
I mean, if all 4 of these guys, or 5, or what, they all walk away or ride off into the sunset, then we're definitely getting a season 2, or at least them showing up in another show.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to see Omega again, especially if Omega shows up in Book of Boba Fett. That'd be great.
And this is exactly what we were talking about. Like, is this the lead in to bring Omega into Book of Boba Fett if she makes it out of this?
I hope so. I mean, she's like, they had the same similar kind of story with Ahsoka with Omega, but Ahsoka, it took like seasons for everyone to fall in love with Ahsoka. But with Omega, it's just like you know, she's one of the characters that's like, I would die for this woman. Like,
yeah,
like she can't die. You know,
you learn from your mistakes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they learned. I mean, and that was, I mean, Dave Filoni was really young and he was just starting to do this for the first time. Now, all these years, and it's like, yep, they've learned now how to introduce a young, you know, a child female character into the universe without being like the most hated person right away. You know, like everybody hated Ahsoka. I mean, you watch that first Clone Wars movie, and then even season 1, it's tough.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it was similar to Rebels. Ezra at first was a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
you know, the first half of that season.
Yeah.
You know, where again we didn't get that with Omega. What do you guys think? Over or under? Do we get a season 2 or do we not get a season 2? If you had to bet right now.
I don't know. I would like a season 2.
I would like to see season 2 if these guys make it out. I mean, it all depends what happens here. If they make it out, I enjoy the team. I like how they've used this series as a way to, you know, answer some questions, big or small, bring back some old characters, you know, Cad Bane, like, you know, stuff that we've all been like excited to see. So if that's going to continue to be the case where then they start to support the rebellion and all that, like, I'm down to seeing all that stuff. But if they don't, or they separate it out, or, you know, I don't know. Then I don't know. If they kill a couple of them off, I don't think that you can keep doing a bad batch because half of them are dead or they're all
Victor,
dead.
Me and you talked about this on the cast, saying that people that have seen the whole season came out and said that the season finale was an absolute tearjerker. Like the people that have seen everything said that the last episode made them just weep uncontrollably. So I'm just like, oh shit, like something awful is gonna happen. Like, you know, whether it's, you know, the Bad Batch or Omega, one of them's gonna die, and I think it.
Or is it just Crosshair? You know, once again, does Crosshair go down
as a hero?
Yeah, I mean, there's also the other thing that we are talking about, and you mentioned it before, Chris, is like Vader. Is it that that they become such a thorn in the side that then they just bring Vader and be like, just deal with these guys, just deal with this. Yeah, because right now this is so beneath Vader. Like, this is not.
They are really like kind of selling the fact that the Bad Batch can do anything against the army of the Empire. Like that, they just whatever situation they're put in,
they're the A-team.
They will come out on top.
Right.
So I agree with that. Like maybe the last episode is they send in Vader, and then the Bad Batch has to find out a way to not. I mean, obviously not kill Vader, but survive.
Or get Omega, or keep Omega alive.
Yeah.
And
then we have like the last episode is like the Bad Batch versus Vader, and that would be crazy.
Well, because Vader will just destroy them. I mean, it's just
exactly.
I mean, it's not even
they wouldn't have a chance to beat him, but they just have a chance to get away.
Right. They just slow him down enough to get Omega out of there.
Yeah.
All right. Here's another question for you guys, which has been floating around, and there are still sites and YouTubers that keep pushing this envelope. Is Omega Force sensitive?
I think the book is still out on that. I mean, the only thing they've shown right now at this point is that she's a very good strategist, which to me just goes along with the clones and the clones, you know, them experimenting and making the clones augmented and all that. Yeah. So we haven't seen her display really anything else other than having like an extremely developed strategic like mind.
Yeah. I think they at this point with the few episodes left, I feel like if she had any Force abilities, they would have dropped it already.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're gonna see her being closer to Boba Fett being that she's.
I just think she's gonna be one of these. She's hard to kill, because she's like
she's like Black Widow and Hawkeye in the Avengers.
Right?
She doesn't have the powers of Thor, but you still can't mess with her.
She's crafty.
She's smart. She's clever. You can put her in any situation. She knows how to get out of things, and and she makes up for her size with her being smart and strategic. And even how they just figured out how to pull this off, they were like, no, we're not going to go storm the castle. We're not doing any of this. And she was like, well, hold on. We just have to reframe this. We have to come up with a strategy. And if we present a strategy, then they may go along with it. She was the one who made that. Oh, okay. Everybody was super emotional, but she was a leader at that point. And I think that, and this is the thing is here's something else. Do we set the stage where she becomes part of the rebellion? Does she wind up joining the rebellion and having a place, in the rebels, the rebel army?
I could see the Bad Batch getting killed off and her contacting Hera and then, joining that side.
Right. I mean,
but then there's so much.
There's a reason that existed in this series.
Yeah.
It's cool from a fan point of view, but there has to be a reason.
But then there's so much in between that is unexplained between Rebels and this. But maybe what if Bad Batch season 2 isn't our Bad Batch? What if the Bad Batch in season 2 is Hera and her family with Omega, and they become and Chopper, they're the Bad Batch in season 2 or something like that,
Could be, or maybe it's one or two, whoever survives gets out.
You don't have Omega in Rebels, so it's she goes off somewhere at some point.
Yeah, well, we've never
figure that out.
This is the only time we've ever seen or heard of Omega in any canon. So she's obviously extremely special, which we found out. She's basically Boba Fett's brother. She's the other end of the most original of the original genetic material left. So her and Boba are it. Alpha Omega. So
the only other plausible thing is that she goes off and hides with the clone. I forget his name, who
Rex.
ends up being the farmer with no, not Rex. The other
Rex.
Who had the family with the 2 kids.
Oh, that wasn't Wolf, was it? Oh, what was his name?
No, I don't think it was Wolf. It wasn't. Not Nines.
Wolf was one of the guys that was with Rex. It was Rex. And it was Rex, Wolves, and I think Hawk was the name of the other guy, maybe.
Yeah, the other guy was the one that was that from that Clone Wars arc with the droids where they get stranded on that planet. He was the chef, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I forgot. Oh, damn, what was his name? Because there was a Bad Batch episode where they went to visit him too.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think one thing I want to bring
they helped him get off the planet.
Yeah, the one thing I want to bring up with the Bad Batch was Hauser.
Yes.
As a clone, that he very visibly disobeyed Order 66.
Yeah,
he even was able to talk other clones into dropping their weapons.
Right, which I found very interesting. So that means that the chip, it loses its power over time.
Yeah, is that a precursor to how they're going to introduce recruited stormtroopers?
That's what I'm thinking.
The clones stop obeying it, and then they probably, I would assume, kill all of them off.
Well, that's what I'm thinking is happening, because once again, a reason why something is introduced, and there's been a lot of talk about loyalty and even I wish they were fighting on our side, and just the fact that happened and he disobeyed, and then other ones were like, yeah, we're with you. It's setting the stage for the conscripted army. And yes, they probably will start just executing the ones that just disobey because they don't believe in what's going on. And we know there's not a lot around by the time we get to the rebellion.
Yeah, if there's a second Order 66 where they kill all the clones, that's dark. That would really, really solidify the Emperor as an absolute
Well, we know he doesn't. He cares nothing.
That's so dark.
But I wouldn't put it past
second
them.
Genocide would be nuts.
Wouldn't put it past them.
Maybe that's the tearjerker moment where they just stand off and just kill each other.
Yeah. Woof.
Yeah, I mean, it's 4 episodes left, right? You said, Victor?
Yeah.
So I think, in tradition, a lot of times we're like, oh my God, how are they going to finish this off, or how are they going to do this? But they always seem to do it. So I think the answer to your original question is where do they go? Is I guess we won't know until we get to this last episode and see where we're lying, and then from there, then we can begin to speculate who shows up and what and all that. I do hope we get Hondo before the end of the season.
We'll see.
I am a Hondo campaign.
Yeah.
We got
my friend.
We got Cad Bane, which was something I didn't think and I don't think we're done with Cad Bane at all. I think we're going to see Cad Bane at least once more.
I have a feeling Fennec is going to take him out at some point.
I got it's going to be Boba Fett.
Well, it was originally supposed to be Boba Fett taking him out in that unreleased season of Clone Wars.
Oh, really? Oh,
yes.
I did not know that. Yeah.
That there was the season of Clone Wars that was never produced, but they had wireframes for. There's an arc where Boba Fett and Cad Bane face off, and Boba Fett takes him out.
Wow, and that would be great to see.
It was never finished, obviously. So is this their chance? Is this Filoni's chance to kind of finish what he wanted to do? Yeah. And we get a whole gunslinger moment.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Him saving Omega.
Well, it's his sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Book of Boba Fett is Fennec, Omega, because Fennec and Omega, they she was trying to protect her. Like they had kind of like a little thing going on between the two of them. If she becomes like the surrogate daughter, Boba Fett and her, she'd still be younger than Boba Fett though, right? Like considerably younger, like at least like 5 years or so.
Yeah, it has to be because Boba Fett's already a bit older at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's interesting. But yeah, I'd love to see her in live action. I think that would be great.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Well, I think that just about wraps it up for our breakdowns of Loki and our breakdowns of the last 2 episodes of The Bad Batch. Obviously, Loki is all wrapped up for now. We'll wait for season 2 to come out. Probably
we got Bad Batch in a couple hours. So
yeah, new Bad Batch episode to drop in a couple hours. Maybe some of the questions we're talking about will begin to be answered in this very next episode.
I will say one thing that I'm happy about being in LA is that Bad Batch drops at midnight instead of 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. So I could be awake and functioning like a human being and not have to force myself to stay up.
I will say the next episode of Bad Batch is called Infested.
Interesting.
And episode 14 is called War Mantle.
Okay.
That's it. No synopsis, no nothing. I just know that the next 2, 13 and 14, are entitled Infested and War Mantle.
Cool. So
and we all know Project War Mantle.
Oh, yeah.
The next episode, that means that the intro to the episode is going to be done by Bad Religion.
Yes, exactly. That would be amazing.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. We'd be like, oh my God, this is great. Bad Religion's doing Bad Batch, just this one episode.
Like, are you seriously combining great punk rock and Star Wars? Those are 2 of my favorite things.
Perfect.
The last episode is I Want to Conquer the World.
Wow.
The last episode is called Vader Kills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us today on the live edition of the Galaxy Geeks podcast and live stream. Want to thank you all for hanging out with us today. Want to thank you all who watched the replay of this, the video version of this, and, of course, those of you who will be listening to the audio version when this comes out. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube and hit that subscribe button anywhere you are listening to this audio program. Really appreciate it. All right, everybody. Christian, thanks for hanging out with us today, man.
Thanks for having me.
Always great to have you on the show.
Trifecta. episodes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Victor, any last words, my friend?
Well, just thanks to you covered it. Thanks to everyone who's watching this live, anyone who's listening to or watching the replay. Thank you to Christian for coming in off the bench once again. Hopefully, this will be the first of many three-prong Manalishi episodes here. And
the 3 Geekateers.
There it is. There it is.
And that is pretty much it, folks. We will see you next time right here on the Galaxy of Geeks.
Excelsior.